apologies for our absence. We had some technical difficulties in Johannesburg, and there we have got Cara, the magnificent leopardess. So it's great to have you all with us. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves, and I must just quickly greet 88-year-old Granny Barb in Lone Hill. Hello, Granny Barb. I know that you've been watching for a long time and enjoying these gorgeous sightings with us, and I hope you're enjoying this. And my apologies for being absent for the last little while. Our apologies. Now, it looks like Cara is going off to have something to eat again. She's been lying there doing absolutely nothing while we've been off air, so she's obviously somebody who likes to be on screen doing stuff. Classic leopard pose, that. Now remember, I don't know how much out of the TV show we came, but please do talk to us. Hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube or Twitch, or if you're a youngster, kids questions at wildearth.tv. We're coming to you live, of course, from the Western Kruger, from the Kalahari Desert, from northern Maputo land, Phinda, other parts of the Lowveld and Ngala and Pridelands, and of course the magnificent, magical, awesome Masai Mara. We're going to carry on now and see if we can re-find Cara. I would normally react probably quite as on move, but I know that she's got 2 kills in this area, and so I'm not particularly worried that she's about to disappear. It's not to say that she won't. Let's see if we can find her again. Sorry about as soon as I can, with David and Isaac, 2 veterans, absolute masters of that area, are waiting to take you on safari. Cara's just in front of us, and it's in this scraggly marula tree over here that she has the remains of what can only be described as a stinking carcass. Now don't lie down there. It is a terrible place to lie down. There are too many sticks in the way. Let's give her a second before we move. There we are. Good girl. Come on. Up you go. There's sort of one rotting limb left in this tree. Now she's walking away from it. No, coming back towards it. There we go. She's a careful cat, this. Let's just move a little bit closer, because I think that if she does go up the tree, we're going to be unsighted by a great plethora of sticks. It's probably about as good as it'll get. Let's just wait here, Theo, because if she does come up the tree, she'll come up from where she is. You see her there? She's just moving now round the back. She might be going to the other tree in which she has food stashed. Yeah, she's moving away from the rotting impala limb. I'll just show you the delicious... Oh, is she? Yes, she is. She turned towards it and then turned away. Look nice, Theo. You feeling hungry? Not so much. No. Okay, let's carry on. She's carried on that way. towards the tree in which she has a bit of duiker stash. So we'll follow her and see if she'll go up that tree.
I hope Cara goes up a tree and settles for James, because she's a busy, busy bee. Now, we have a spotted eagle owl here. Not the best visuals, but I think it's either Sebwig's mum or dad. I know that sounds crazy, but they are a territorial pair. They're monogamous and they're very difficult to tell apart, other than the male is bigger than the female. But unless you're looking at them next to one another, it's really, really tricky. This is a tree we had them in yesterday, and I'm really hoping that we might get another Sebwig this year. We watched this spotted eagle owl chick grow up from a tiny fuzzy ball of grey fur into the most magnificent spotted eagle owl. And we first spotted Sebwig on the 13th of November. So I think we've got a little bit of time to go, but it's getting to that time of year that mummy spotted eagle owl will lay her eggs. And it's so exciting. It was one of the most remarkable things watching.
Clovers for the one.
Oh. I'm just going to turn that down. It was the most remarkable thing watching this chick grow up. Oh, many of you are missing Sebwig. Me too. Spotted eagle owls can actually lay up to 6 eggs, but Sebwig was the only survivor, or maybe he was the only egg. We don't actually know, but there was no other chicks. But it's usually in this area of the Kruger that spotted eagle owls will lay between 2 and 3 eggs. So we don't quite know what happened to the rest, but Sebwig grew up in front of our eyes, and he's most likely dispersed now away from this area. This area belongs to his monogamous parents. So I'm going to keep checking this area as long as I can. It's actually my last drive today for a while. Trishala will be back tomorrow, and I'm more than sure Trishala will keep checking this area too, just to see if we can start to see more signs of these gorgeous eagle owls. Now they're just roosting, or at least this one is. I saw 2 of them yesterday in this tree, but I can only see 1 today. So it's just roosting, resting, and as soon as that sun starts to go down, it will become very active. And they're incredible hunters, incredible carnivores, from bush babies to francolins to bats to rodents. And then if they're really hungry, they will snack on much smaller things like insects, arachnids, snails in the summer. Oh, it's so good to see them again. Very sleepy. Many of you saying we need to ask the parents, where's Sebwig? What college has he gone to? Where is he gone? Is he going to come back? Sebwig got too many of us. I remember the day we found him, actually. It was really, really special. And I think we all learned, every single one of us, including, well, the team here and all you watching at home, we learned a lot about spotted eagle owls, that's for sure. And they are quite common in this area. They're not rare, but it was very rare for us to see this chick grow up. And it's very rare for us to see a spotted eagle owl become so habituated. It was just really familiar with our vehicle, and Sebwig became quite a character. We watched him take his first flight. We watched him discover that he had legs and talons for the first time. We watched him make his first call. Oh, I'm getting all nostalgic. Almost a year ago now. Now, they're said to be the most common long-eared owl in the area. They've got these ear tufts. I'm not sure if you can really see them from here, but that makes them sort of really obvious that it's an eagle owl. And they're the most common one in this area. You do get lots of other owls that do have the ear tufts. The Cape eagle owl, not found in this area, also has them. And even Ethiopia has their own endemic species, the Abyssinian long-eared owl. Look how camouflage they are. If you really don't know what you're looking for, spotted eagle, yeah, there you go. It's very difficult to see them. I'm sure the other one's somewhere. And I'm actually on my way to see if we can find the python again. Jenna, you're asking how often will a spotted eagle owl lay eggs? It's normally annually once they sort of once they become sexually active, it's normally annually that they will lay eggs. And it was just last year, 2019, that we had Sebwig. So hopefully Mama Eagle Owl here will lay another clutch and we'll have a sort of, another successful little chick to follow. They say with spotted eagle owls, they lay larger clutches when the food is more plentiful. So if winter's been a year of drought and it's been very harsh, summer's also going to be quite tricky for the animals. Summer will deliver, but it's got to recover from the tough winter. And therefore, this year, summer delivered so much that winter's not been that tough on the animals at all. And I wonder if that would mean that the spotted eagle owl mother will actually lay more eggs, a larger clutch. It's all about resources out here. So lovely. The Mowati is one of my favourite places in the reserve to be. We had to leave Tandy, I'm afraid. It's a very busy sighting, but hopefully once it calms down we'll go back and get another view of her and hopefully the cub. Can you see the other one, BK? No, I'm scanning here to see if we can see the partner. But unfortunately I can't. So BK and I are going to go down, continue our river cruise to look for the python.
Guys, we've got something super exciting. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try. We have found a porcupine burrow in the mountain over here in the rocks. We're going to try, have a look. Dave is not going to bring the camera to me. He's going to look in this hole. Let's see if we can get these. Super, super, super exciting. Let's try. Right in there. Try get in there. Try get in there a bit. There. You got it. Porcupine, guys. Porcupine. We got a porcupine in a burrow. Porcupine in a burrow. Got a porcupine in a burrow, and there's at least two of them in this burrow here. This is insane. Finally, I've got a porcupine for you in daylight. Unbelievable. Yes, I can't believe we've got this. This was purely by accident. When I was walking over the top of the mountain, I found this completely by accident. This is insane. I'm so happy about this. So this isn't the entrance, actually. This isn't the entrance. The entrance is behind us. It comes in underneath the rocks. But we'll show you that just now. But I just wanted to give you an idea from the top, because it's the only way we'll be able to see these animals. How awesome is that? So there's at least 2 porcupines in here, but actually probably a lot more. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this, eh? Yes, and our signal was so bad there, I was worried we wouldn't even be able to get this. Oh my goodness, you can see the calls moving there. Yeah, I said there's at least 2, and I think it's actually a whole lot more. Oh, fantastic. Porcupine at last. But the nice thing, at least I know where these ones are now. So we can actually return to these intermittently if we have to. And I didn't even know, it just shows all my time on this reserve. I didn't even know that this existed, this hole in the rocks here. With these porcupines living there, plus all those stone tools on the top there. So it just shows how much there's still to discover, even on a reserve that you think you know fairly well. Man, oh man. You see how long those feeler claws are? The ones that are sticking out, and then you got those very short, sharp, thick ones. I'm sorry I didn't get the name there. Our comms isn't great. But the question was, are those quills poisonous? They're not poisonous, but if they get embedded in a predator or something that's trying to catch it, they can actually get infection in that injury. And there are lots of cases of lions, leopards, and things like that dying from porcupine quills that actually end up festering in them. And then, of course, you just get the actual injuries from the porcupine quills, and those can be completely debilitating to a predator that gets a quill in its jaw or its eye or something like that. So I'm just so blown away that we found this. This was absolute luck. There was no skill involved here. This was, man, oh man, I'm so excited. But we've also got something else to show you just now. So we're going to be sticking around the spot a little bit longer. Yeah, I can't believe we found this, eh? And so well covered with vegetation. I would never see it. I actually walked straight over the top of this. I jumped from one side to the other, and then I realized under this grass or this bush there's like a whole big hole over here. Yeah, if I'd fallen in there, I would have been caught between a rock and a hard place. Or a rock and a sharp place. Yeah, this was just so lucky. Oh, goodness. I think let's...
Here we have got our little leopard. She's moved a little bit further into the shade. And I think it's still worth staying with her, because she does have 2 kills. The sun is setting, and if she goes up into the tree in the middle of the clearing in which she stashed the duiker, we'll get some magnificent shots of her from quite a distance. So we'll just patiently enjoy our leopard. I tell you what, it's unusual that we're able to spend this amount of time with the cat, because obviously there are game drives going and people wanting to come and see the leopards, and this particular leopard has a 2-vehicle limit because she can be a little bit nervous depending on how much movement there is around her. She's been absolutely fine with us today. As you can see, she's fast asleep. But it's really wonderful that we've been able to spend the entire afternoon with her so far. Should be able to carry on, but we might have to move out a little bit later. We shan't complain though. Sleepy Cara. Jenna, we think that leopards have fur in their ears in order to stop the dust going in, so to protect them from the dust, and probably also protect them from the wind. So a little bit like a fluff on a microphone. It allows the sound in but protects the sensitive parts of the ear from the wind. And so it probably acts as a filter that allows them to hear much more effectively. I don't know if the same argument can be made for human hair growth, which in my case has started. The hairs have migrated off my head and are now starting to grow in exuberant patches in my ears. I don't think it's for the same reason, however. So it is almost definitely for dust, but I think more for wind. Their ears are such a massively important part of how they operate, how they find prey, how they find predators. And so you can imagine on windy days like we've had recently, if you've got very sensitive ears facing into the wind, all you're going to hear is which is hopeless. But if you've got a great big thick mat of hair, it'll filter out that wind noise. To a certain extent, of course. fact, it's one of the most difficult things to deal with in the bush or in any kind of outdoor filming environment. It's trying to negate the effects of wind blowing into microphones, and that's exactly what nature is doing for Cara the leopard.
Hello, April.
You would bet on me.
You can see the back treatment, if you will, helps him get rid of ticks and other things. But I think the three of them are actually just getting a bit of a break from this wind again this afternoon in this watering hole down below, nice and sheltered from the wind and somewhat protected.
We're here, don't worry, sorry about that. Couple of technical glitches today, but this is the trouble with broadcasting live out of the wilderness in a high definition. Cara is not particularly enthralled by being on screen right now, but we're still going to wait with her. Just enjoy nature, enjoy being in the company of a leopard, and enjoy the changing of the seasons now as winter draws to a close. Not quite spring yet, but slowly it's moving in. Pranav, in this particular area, impala, steenbok and duiker are the leopard's favourite prey. And we say favourite because those are the things that we see them eating most frequently. For duiker and impala probably more than steenbok, although they'll happily eat a steenbok. But I suspect also, Pranav, that they eat a lot of scrub hares, and that because scrub hares are small, we just don't see them eating them. So often you'll find a leopard and you'll see, or you'll sometimes find a leopard with a scrub hare in its mouth, but it'll take them kind of, I don't know, a couple of minutes to devour it, and then they move on. And so you don't often see them with scrub hares. But I do think that there are so many scrub hares around, and leopards are so good at hunting that they eat a lot of them. And we discovered the same thing with wild dogs, you know. Until I saw it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that scrub hares made up such a large proportion of wild dog meals. But when we started watching wild dogs from the air with a drone, you found that members of the pack on the hunt would regularly flush a little scrub hare, eat it almost in less than half a minute, and then move on and carry on hunting. So I think the fact that there are so many scrub hares around means that they provide quite a lot of food to quite a few predators without us necessarily noticing. You might also be able to hear the lowing of cattle, and that is because we are close to Dixie Village, so that's what you can hear.
We have the most incredible bull elephant in front of us that's in musth. Now, how do I know he's in musth? 3 reasons. He's streaming from from his temporal gland on the side of his head. I can smell him. That sort of old, leathery, elephant dung, honey, sweet smell. It's very difficult to explain, but I love it. And he's also dribbling from his penis. And we call this leaky penis, which I know sounds very bizarre, but he's leaving his urine everywhere for the females to pick up on. Now I know it's not the greatest view, the sun is right behind him, but I've made the decision that I don't want to reposition. He's been a bit boisterous, taking a little bit of a tantrum, throwing sticks on the ground, so I don't want to reposition for him. Now, leaky penis syndrome in elephants was actually first thought to be an STD. They thought that elephants were passing sexually transmitted diseases to one another. And I know it does seem bizarre, but it really wasn't understood what was actually happening in elephants. They're also known to get GP, and GP is short for green penis syndrome, where their penis turns completely green. And they actually studied it quite extensively, and female elephants show preference for those males with the green penis. So I'm not entirely sure that would work for humans, but for female elephants, they're far more attracted to it. And it all comes with heightened aggression and increased sexual activity. So they're sending off a reproductive signal, and it's apparently irresistible for female elephants. Now, musth it was first described way back in, I think, 1975 as a temporary state of madness, almost like rutting in the antelopes. And the word musth actually has Persian origins from the word mast, as in M-A-S-T, and it basically means intoxicated, because it was really not understood what is wrong with the elephants, why are they acting like this. And then, of course, it all became clear. It's hormonal. And you can see he's dribbling. He's swollen. He's a big musth bull. He's incredible. But it's always safer to give these bulls distance, especially when they're feeling a little bit boisterous. They're said to have up to 60 times the amount of testosterone pumping through their veins. Now that's a lot of testosterone. So the females can pick up on olfactory cues from the urine. So wherever the female goes, she will be able to smell a musth bull. Yep, he's leaking, see? Immediately when you see that, you know this bull's in musth. And I know it's not very pleasant, but it is a really good indicator if you're not sure, because the temporal gland at either side of an elephant's head, females have them too, they can stream from excitement, any sort of emotional reaction. When females maybe get reunited after a long time, or herds get reunited, they'll stream with excitement. So the temporal gland leaking at the side of his head is not the best indicator. They can also leak when they're stressed, if they're anxious, if something's happened, they'll stream from the temporal gland. It is also a sign of musth, but looking at a leaky penis is definitely the best one to go by when it comes to trying to gauge, is an elephant in musth. And if you have a nose like mine, then you can definitely smell him. So I'm going to sit here and enjoy watching this bull a little while longer.
Elephant. Let's have a look at a feathered friend here, and we got spot earlier winged, because I was just by the Mara River where I was trying to chance and see whether there could be any action there, and the internet kept breaking. And see what we got for you. These are so many goslings, and how cute they are, and I want to believe they must be eating. And it's so funny, if they're all eating together, going in the same direction. I haven't seen the Egyptian geese feeding like this, and my guess is they're feeding, and they're either learning how to feed. See, some of them are coming out of the water, and see how cute they are. I'm just trying to count them. Maybe all of you can help me count these chicks, or rather these goslings here. I had counted 7, maybe 8. And how cute is this? And thank you very much for your great comments. And what I want to find out, ladies and gentlemen, is if there are 2 mothers here or is only 1 female. Of course, there are 2 of them. If you look carefully, to the left of that is that one there. And is it a male and a female? Are they 2 females? And either half the chicks belong to, one mother and the other one to the other mother? I highly doubt, because if you look at those chicks, very good, you're all counting 8. Thank you very much. I think 8 is the correct number, and I think this is my day for seeing chickies. I mean, I earlier had the 2 for the lapwing, and now I got this for the Egyptian geese. How wonderful to see 8 goslings together. I mean, no doubt they're feeding. Let's agree on that. And they remind me of pelicans. When you look at pelicans feeding, you'll always see them in a very synchronized manner when they're feeding. And I think the mother is staying very close to them, just making sure all is under control. And most of these geese, you'll get them in general in freshwater bodies, be it lakes or rivers or water holes. And the click you just heard there was coming from the lapwing. You might keep quiet for a couple of seconds and see if they can hear her. Bungay, not sure they're going to give you too much trouble. And you come back to a lapwing here with her 2 chicks. Now she just woke up, she just stood up, and the chicks that we had before, they're just there together. And this looks like a small little kindergarten for different birds. The lapwing, the Egyptian geese. So that is one of them, and the 2 of them together there. Excellent, excellent. And Casting with directing the show says this is very big for her. I mean, seeing these small chicks like this, leopards are always fun to watch, lions, cheetahs, wild dogs, aardvarks. But now we got 2 lapwings here, and again, not sure. You're going to put her under your wing because it's pretty chilly where we are. And what happens to the other Bungay? Do you think the other no, there's the other young one still running around, but at least we got 2 adults of the lapwings. One chick is quite ambitious, and I was wondering, like when you look at some cubs, like for example of hyenas, you'll always notice one is more aggressive or more dominant than the other. Now these 2 chicks here of the lapwing, one has kept coming out and in. Of course, I cannot tell it's the same one, but one is staying under the wings of the mother. But this one here, well, not sure she's chasing some insects to catch. Are you hungry? Because she hasn't fledged, I would say she doesn't have as many feathers to keep her warm at this particular age. So that's why the mother is choosing to keep the other one warm. Well, Bungay, why don't we have another quick look at the goslings there, and then we'll find out if they'll do anything or we'll reposition. But let's have one more quick look for a few seconds.
So while we were with this porcupine, or porcupines, in this little clump of boulders and that, it was so amazing. David was actually standing on the top to get that footage down, and he said, but hang on, there's something else over here. And look what he found. This is so cool. I'm actually going to go around behind David over there. Gives him a better angle. Look who we've got. Look who we've got. Hello, boyki. There we go. Nice. That's a rock monitor lizard. Remember you were with us this morning when you got that one in the tree. So this little guy, in fact he's not so little. This guy, I don't know, he's probably just under 1 meter in length. But he's really living up to his name of being a rock monitor because he is so wedged into this gap in the rocks here. And they can sleep they can stay in places like this right through the winter. until temperatures start warming up, and then they'll start moving again and foraging. This guy will almost certainly come out in warmer weather, like that other one was doing, getting a bit of sun on that tree. This one will do exactly the same amongst these rocks over here. But I would guess it's probably unlikely that it would actually be going out foraging. You know, if something like happened to walk across the front of his nose, he'd probably grab it. But typically, they'd wait for the warmer summer months, and then they'd actually become active foragers, and they'll go for anything. They'll go for rodents, they'll go for other snakes. Pretty much, I've seen them eating insects, so pretty much anything that they can catch, they'll go for. But I'm absolutely just amazed that it was touch and go about what we'd actually, if we'd even have a signal up here this afternoon. And then we've got beautiful porcupines, fantastic rock monitor, and this is all in, I don't know, 10 square meters, maybe 15 square meters. And speaking of reptiles, there's evidence of other reptiles here as well. If you look on these rocks over here, you'll see all these white and brown droppings along the rock. These are geckos. Some of you may know geckos. They're frequently nocturnal. They're these very soft, squishy, plasticky looking little reptiles, and they actually inhabit these deep cracks in the rocks, and they only come out at night to start hunting prey. In fact, even in daylight hours, if it's warm enough and they're in these recesses, they'll probably be a little bit active as well, but typically nocturnal. It just blows my mind in such a small area, the diversity that you got of species, and it just shows, don't take anything for granted.
I am not taking my leopard for granted. My leopard is still fast asleep, and I'm still enjoying and appreciating her presence here with us. She has become more comatose since last you saw us, and that is because the other vehicle has departed, and so now she is feeling completely relaxed and has gone to sleep. Still worth staying, for sure, because, well, she may well go up a tree and give us a display. She's obviously had a very tiring day of doing not a great deal and eating quite a lot. I think what's quite interesting, though, is that her belly doesn't seem to be particularly full. I don't know how much she's eaten today. You can see it's fullish, but she's not panting at all. Many of you will have seen predators after they've had a big meal going because the stomach is so full, pushing up against the diaphragm, and apparently also producing quite a lot of metabolic heat during the process of digestion, but that doesn't seem to be the case with her, even though she has 2 kills. She's obviously a fairly dainty eater.
Den, and look who's here. We have Corks and her little one, who's getting braver and braver. Oh, precious. And so nice to see them one last time. I'll be back, don't worry. Please all keep your eyes on this little one. And I've seen many of you comment that you think it's weak and it's not growing enough. Trust me, it is. If you compare photos to when we first saw this little one, it's getting so mobile, so strong. His back legs are really well developed now. His eyes are fully open. It's got really sharp little teeth. We saw that the other day when it was biting Mum. And it's walking further and further from the den. I think this is Corky coming to tell it to get back. It's going too far. So trust me, it may never be as big or as strong as Ribbon's little two, but you have to remember, Ribbon and Corky are at very opposite ends of the scale now. Corks is at the bottom and Ribbon's at the top, and therefore their offspring are going to unfortunately see the effects of that. Corky's...
I've got her anyway on the road, but she's heading into a sex stuff now. I'm gonna try and keep with her.
Copy. I'll come and join you in about 5 minutes if you still have her.
I'm gonna try and figure camp into this drainage. Don't know how long I can keep with her.
Copy, copy. I'll be there shortly. There's another leopard in the property, really not too far from where we are right now. I'm going to guess Kalalamba, but I don't actually know. So if any of you are watching that damn cam, keep your eyes peeled, because I believe she's heading that way. So yes, Cork's offspring will never have the advantages that ribbons now have. And you will see that. The differences will be visible. But I can assure you, this little one is thriving. Look at it go! Just a few weeks ago, it wasn't leaving the den entrance. And it was also really weak. So I think Corky's getting ready to put this one to bed anyway. And I think I may race round and see if we can catch another leopard.
Also straight back to bed. Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, where for a the signs that he's gonna start getting up and getting active. Well, this is the most we've seen out of him all afternoon. He's been lying flat on his back in that food coma. After this morning's feast, you can see one or two pieces of
Good afternoon and welcome to andBeyond Ngala, where we are looking at a relaxed afternoon and a family of zebras. It's just started moving into the clearings to start and feed. My name is Yapi, and behind the camera we have Cara. And we have been looking all afternoon to see if we can find anything, but it's been a little bit quiet. So we've decided to make our way back towards this scene on the bank of the river. The tall trees in the background is a timbavati. And we were lucky enough to catch these zebras as they were moving away from the riverbed. And they have moved into the plains where they're probably going to stick around to feed until the sun goes down. And that one over there that we're looking at now, that looks like the male or the stallion of this group. A nice long tail. You'll notice his skin is twitching. Some very, very nice backlighting coming off from that beautiful sun that will set and not too long from now. And there you see the rest of them. You see there's two young ones in between them. Looks like actually it looks like two mothers, two young ones, and then the one male. Now I can see the ears flicking, tails going. They might be bothered a little bit by flies or flying insects, biting insects within this tall grass. This particular area, because it's right on the banks of the big riverbed, this is where the best soils are deposited, and therefore it's also the areas with the best grasses. So we'll often find in the clearings like this particular one, we have the groups of animals gather, especially late afternoon. I think these zebra have just come from drinking. There's a puddle of water in the riverbed not far from here.
notice as they continue to feed, every now and again some of them will have their head up. And they're also starting to listen out, have a look around and see if this area is safe to maybe settle for the night.
Well, welcome back. Gremlins haven't left us. They are following me everywhere, but thank you that you've been there. We found more of the rhino females and one cub that it's my first time to see it. I haven't seen them for quite a while. She's to the left. We're going to be showing you, she's somewhere there in the grass. There we go. Yeah, it's heading to around 9 months. I think 1 year. Looks like a male. I haven't seen this one. So today in total, I have seen about 13 of the rhinos. They were accompanied by the triangle boys. I've come to learn that, and so I think I've seen all the rhinos today. They are in the prime of their territory. They're in the middle of the triangle, and all around them is just wildebeest. Every now and then, you know, this female keeps waking up. I think she thinks the wildebeest are going to come this way and trouble her. Behind her it's another female, and I know her because she's a bit shy. Every time I raise my voice, you know, she'll put her head up. But right now she's safe behind that adult female. You can tell she's very full, not lactating because the nipples have not been used, and she hasn't lost all her young spots. Some lions lose them completely, some, you know, keep them, but they usually have them at a very, very young age. Last year, we saw them quite a lot towards the Sausage Tree Pride area, and the main reason is there was much water there, so there was prey. But now they've come back to their territory, and it's nice to see them this relaxed, knowing that next meal won't be very hard to come across. You see this guy, we never saw him last year, so he must have been born very early this year. Come, you asked me about Scarface. Is alive? Yes, he's alive and kicking. He's on the Greater Mara side, an area that I know very well. So he's alive, and he's accompanied by another male. They're together, you know, in an area across the other side of the Mara. He's alive. I'm sure, you know, you're asking that because you know that he's very old and he's full of character with his car. Yes, he's doing very, very, very well. Don't you worry. You will hear it all across the world if he does leave us, of which I'm not hoping very soon. It will be nice to share him with you in the next coming months if possible. Yeah, I was talking about this young guy. I wonder how many were born, because I never saw this young lioness when it was young, and I don't know how many they were born, and I don't know which female, which is the mom. But slowly, as we are back, we'll be able to investigate more and tell you more, so that we can catch up with what we lost within, you know, the last 1 year. They're a bit sleepy. It's very chilly here, so I'm gonna stay with them, and I hope, you know, try and keep myself warm.
So we've left those zebra, and we were heading towards the riverbed where we thought we heard a herd of elephants. And then we came across this blue vervet monkey. Have a look at that amazing balance. Delicate branches that it's moving on. They're busy feeding off the flowers of a knobthorn. Now what is even more amazing about this amazing feat of agility is the fact that it is within a tree with very, very sharp hooked thorns. And what I find amazing is the way they hold on to those branches, the way they maneuver in between those thorns without getting hooked. You can see it looks like they're feeding off the nodes of the new flowering parts of the tree. Literally stuffing its mouth as quick as it can, then shifting positions. Notice it's looking around the whole time, and as it's moving it just throws its tail over and keep it out towards the back to balance itself. Larma, it does have very agile hands. It's got an amazing grip. You can see that little one has basically got himself, that his hind feet right by his forelimbs, and is holding on with the one hand onto the branch, trying to balance himself. Now that one's pretty high up, and I can't see clearly from where I am, but I do think that that might be the male. And you'll usually find that the males are often the ones sitting up higher than the rest of the troop, where they scout out for any possible danger. Now while we sit here and watch these monkeys enjoy the late afternoon sun and having a last meal, we will have a look and see if there's any more sounds or any noises coming from the riverbed where those elephants were.
What else was around? We've come back to Ndlovu Dam and found more elephants swimming, and this one elephant has the whitest tusks I've ever seen. In fact, all of them have got incredibly white tusks because they've been cleaning them as they play and frolic in the water. It's amazing the contrast, their dark skin and those white tusks, that ivory. It's of course why elephants were heavily persecuted in the past. Now very well protected here in southern Africa, especially in the Greater Kruger area. There's 4 elephants in and around the dam. This is amazing. Look at that, having a bit of a drink. You know, this is thirsty work, you know, swimming and having fun. Thirsty work. See, look at that. You can hear the sounds. Splashing and tussling. Oh, it's gorgeous. And then we've got the one elephant that we all know very well, short-legged Ivar. He's just sitting, or leaning on his leg there as he plucks at some small herbaceous vegetation, so you can see how he's bent his back leg. The one is nice and straight. Always around, wherever there's young bulls, you'll find short-legged Ivar. Amazing how the heel and that fleshy pad spreads out as they step. Surely, I completely agree with you. Elephants are one of those few animals that you can watch all day without ever finding a moment where there's nothing that's interesting you about them. Sometimes you can see lions or leopards sleeping, and you know, after an hour or two watching them, you sort of say, well, let's go and see what else there is. But when there's an elephant, there's nothing better than just watching what it does. Look how entertaining these things are. Look at them playing and tussling. That's amazing, the contrast with their white tusks. They're very, very clean. We watched an elephant earlier rubbing its tusks in the mud and then using its trunk to squeeze all around its tusks. It really looked like it was brushing its teeth. It was really, really cool. I've never seen it before. I've never noticed it before, but I really, really could swear that elephant was using the mud to brush its teeth, its tusks. I suppose tusks are like any tooth, although modified. If they're not kept clean and healthy, they will start to rot and get plaque and all sorts of horrible, yucky things. Oh, if you could feel the breeze right now. Oh, that elephant's got a short trunk. Short trunk. We know this elephant as well. It's got a short trunk. We're not sure what happened to its trunk. It must have happened when it was very, very young, because this elephant has learned to deal with it. It seems to have no problems. We watched it feeding the other day very easily on shrubs and bushes. It just has to reach a bit lower when it's trying to get to the shortest stuff like the grasses and things. But yeah, That's awesome. It's good to see that he's also around. Short trunk. I think every reserve in South Africa has an elephant with a short trunk. It's called short trunk. It seems to have no problems. It's breathing through it fine. It's got all the dexterity. The only thing it's missing is those two pieces on the end, which I think are called a septum. I could be wrong. Which it uses to pinch and pluck at little things. You can see them playing. There you can see just the tip of the trunk there that's missing. But otherwise, a very happy elephant.
We've got Princess Kalalamba, everyone. What an action-packed drive. I thought she was going to head towards Galagopan, but she's not. She's walking along the drainage, scent marking. Haven't heard her saw yet. Tail up, look, white flag. She comes in peace. Okay, BK, are you ready to try and follow? That's me had 3 generations today. Queen Chandy, Princess Kalalamba, and the sun. And that's what the monkeys were alarm calling at. Oh, monkeys don't like leopards, and leopards don't like monkeys. Now, I am slightly confused, I must say, about the reports this morning of mating leopards. The only leopards that I could assume that would be mating would be Kalalamba and Mowati together. Now, she's completely alone here. There's no Mowati on her tail, so I'm not entirely sure what was really reported last night. Something went on, but was it mating leopards? I'm not sure. Oh, thank you, Princess. That makes life a lot easier for BK and I. Now we're near Galagopan, and that's very much Kalalamba's territory. Tandy wouldn't come this far, and I've never seen Shudulu really come to Galagopan, but I think, in my opinion, this is a sort of territorial boundary for these two females, Shudulu, our Duchess, and Princess Kalalamba. And I think they're both going to keep pushing and shoving, almost like a tug of war of territorial boundary lines, if that's how you can imagine it. And I mentioned earlier, when leopards scent mark, we can't smell it, but there's hundreds and hundreds of different compounds that are released in the marking fluid. And chromatography actually can analyze every single compound. So you can only begin to imagine what each of these compounds are telling the other individual. So many messages. Most mammals, not all, do possess scent glands. Many of you are saying, all I need is Tingana. Oh, Tingana. I have not seen the Duke in so long, it breaks my heart. I think he's becoming slightly nomadic, and I couldn't say for sure because I've not seen his behaviour. And he's definitely up in Buffelshoek now. So for a leopard, each individual can be coded through the variation in the proportions of compounds that they release in their scent marking fluid. That's how they will be able to identify each individual. Now, to any animal out here, a threat is the biggest threat to you is an individual of your own species. So it's so valuable that you can recognize each individual. She's scent marking. See, she's rubbing her cheeks and she's spraying the marking fluid. This is territorial behaviour. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to do my very best, everyone, and follow the princess.
Well, not very sure. Lauren will see Kalalamba maybe becoming the queen of Djuma area one day, just like the mother Taldi, you never know. Ladies and gentlemen, today I thought it's my day to do birding. I haven't done so many mammals today. I have been doing birds and birds. We started with those 2 chicks of the lapwings, then we saw the goslings, and just look what we got for you there. All that tree is colored white, and if you look carefully, there are like 3 or so different species of birds there. Isn't that beautiful? And I'm very happy that you're enjoying today. And I was telling Bungay is the gentleman behind the camera today. Let's do birding today. Let's forget about the mammals for once. Let's not do even elephants or any cats. We saw some lions from a distance, but I thought since we just came back from home, let's try and warm up with the birds first, and then we start going to the big mammals as days come by. Now, earlier you helped me count. James, I think you must have read my mind, or you must have got that out of my mouth, because you caught me when I was saying you helped me earlier to count the 2 chicks of the lapwings. You helped me count the 8 goslings, and I wanted to ask all of you to help me count. I mean, let's be honest, how many birds we have here? I think you can see better than me, but I'll give you an idea. We've got 3 species of birds here. We got herons, we got egrets, and we got the sacred ibis. So what I want Bungay to do for me is just to give us one very good frame, look at your screens, and let's have an idea, give or take, how many birds do we have there? Ian, you counted 40. Not bad, Ian, but Ian, I would beg to disagree, and you know you're my friend, but allow me to disagree with you, Ian, because if you take, say, the first ones on the right, that alone is just 40, and that's the smaller group. Move to the left, and you see there's a bigger group there, maybe twice the number, the ones on the right. I'm not sure whether cast we can hear how they're chipping and having the party there. Very good. I gotta pause for a couple of seconds for us just to enjoy all the calls they're making. Now, I would say all these birds here are here for 2 reasons. Maybe either for breeding reasons, one, or they got a lot of food to eat, because they must have a common reason to see egrets together, sacred ibis together, the herons together. There must be a commonality that has brought them where they are. What you see there is like a huge termite mound, and you see it got small little bushes on top. And most likely also they could be getting a bit of warmth from that termite mound. If we assume we got thousands or maybe millions of termites under or inside that termite mound, it's exuding lots of heat, and most likely that's what those birds could be enjoying, you know, and absorbing it using their feet. So I'm looking at the black-headed heron there, sacred ibis, cattle egret, great egret, Heidi 151, and I think now I might work out with that 151. How did you get the 1? I mean, I don't know how you quantify the 1, but I think now me and you are getting somewhere. 100 plus to me, I'll agree. 150 going to 200, that makes a lot of sense. And you notice some come in and go out. James Richard, very good to hear your voice, and how have you been? And yes, James Richard, lots of bad. This what particular setting we got now, and I'm sure James Richard, you might have enjoyed the chicklets we saw earlier of the lapwing and the goslings. And here again, James Richard, I thought, you know, today will be my birding day. Bungay, are you enjoying this? Bungay, you know, I'm just asking whether he is enjoying the sighting of the birds, and he just put his hands up, you know, which means he is equally having a good fun here. Now there's a waterhole here, and or rather, let me call it a spring, and it usually has water all around the area, and it normally does not dry. So I can see some big storm, or can hear some thunderstorms coming from the side. I'm gonna turn around and move on, maybe look for more birds later.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everybody, where we've managed to catch up with those 3 white rhino that we saw a little bit earlier at that watering hole, who have made their way now up to a lovely open grassland to feed this afternoon. Into the evening, the sun has set and the temperatures started to drop, but you can see now a little bit better how they've all caked themselves in mud like we spoke about earlier. All with their heads down, but again, ears working overtime, just having a listen around. Every time we shuffle, have a look at that one on the right now. Very sort of tentative as it grazes this afternoon. Those ears, its back even looks wet still from that mud from the watering hole. As a game viewer drove past us a little bit earlier on, it sort of reared up to attention and stormed off in the direction of the game viewer, but then hurried back to Mom, who also then got a little bit startled, but now quite relaxed. Heads down, very peaceful. There's a giraffe. If we go, that I've just seen in picture, a little bit higher up in the distance. You can just sort of semi-make it out there. But the wind, luckily now, is starting to die down. But interestingly enough, you can see which way the Elizabeth is saying, yeah, two-toned rhinos, very much so. Caked in mud, visibly caked in mud, both of them. It almost looks like they had quite a bit of fun in that wallow earlier. And that exfoliation that we spoke of, that they will often do on a hot day, go and roll around in the mud, and then later on, like that tree you see behind them, go and rub themselves up against it. That will and help for ticks and parasites. But watch that one. It's very tricky to try and see their lips, but it's quite amusing to watch them. I'm not sure if you saw that bird duck down now as well. It might make an appearance, but there are a couple of glossy starlings that are weaving in and out of their feet, trying to catch insects that they might flush as they walk about. Every so often as well, we have these faint squeaks from these rhino this afternoon. It might be quite tricky for you to hear at home, but that's them communicating with one another. You got a bit of war paint, this one along his face as well. There's one of those glossy starlings that popped up. But very tricky. Have a look at those lips as he munches on that grass now. Very tricky to hear. It is still quite windy, quite gusty this afternoon. But quite nice to see now with the detail of their eye. Not something that we get to see otherwise, because it is so small in comparison to their head. So often lifting their heads up, listening out, sniffing. Michael, you're asking if these rhinos have been dehorned. You are 100% correct. They have been dehorned. You can see Mom in the back right of your screen at the moment, who has been dehorned in and that dehorning, Michael, that you asked about is purely for their protection. We've got really good relationships with the communities on the outside and a really good anti-poaching unit on the inside, but that obviously doesn't stop people, so that is one of the precautions that we have to take here on andBeyond Phinda. I'm sorry it is so windy, because you can either hear them munching or every now and again that squeaking. If you've heard that before, if you've been on safari, but yeah, it's something that's actually quite amusing to listen to, and not quite the sound that you'd think a rhino would make. And that almost sounds like they're sloshing something around in their mouths when they chomp on that grass. They lift their heads, have a bit of a feed, and then back down to feed more. But you can see where they are eating around little bushes that might hold a little bit of dew, grass a little bit more nutrient rich for them maybe, now that everything's starting to dry up. kept quiet there now, sorry, because again you can hear that, I can hear that squeaking. I'm not sure if because of the wind, I might just leave the three of them in peace this afternoon to carry on browsing into the evening, and we'll set on out and see if we can't find any other nocturnal animals.
Here is Cara. As you can see, she's doing absolutely nothing. She has sat up 3 times in the last 45 minutes or half an hour or so. She's looked, she's considered, she's contemplated, and then she's slept. And in fact, I must confess to having dropped off once on myself. And then I gave myself a fright and woke up, and Theo is still laughing, which is why you can see the camera shaking slightly. I had a bad dream. Anyway, we watched a good sunset, contemplated life, read my bird book, listened to the evening sounds of Dixie Village, which are actually extremely pleasant in these rural villages. The cows going home, the old chicken clucking, and all interspersed with beautiful sounds and smells of the wilderness. Sounds like there are about 5,000 cattle out there. I don't think there are. There's just a lot of bells. If you could convince everybody in the community to tune their bells to a certain tone. Sometimes, Sam, and it's one of the big things that happens in these game reserve areas is that we have, oh, there's a hyena. That's what she's looking at. Hyena's now trying to contemplate how he's going to get the rotting leg out of the tree, and he's not going to succeed. You see it there? It's just at the base of the tree with the rotten leg. I can just see it. Yeah, you're on it. That's it. Well done. And Sam, so compensation for animals getting out and killing cattle is a major program for wildlife authorities, both here and in other wildlife areas of Africa. And the Mara Triangle has an enormously impressive and developed and sophisticated compensation scheme, because of course there are no fences around the Mara Triangle at all. But it doesn't happen very frequently because these fences are well maintained, especially in the private reserves. She's now just watching the hyena go past, but amazing how she picked it up immediately. She would have heard the footfalls. That hyena will know that there is a leopard here, won't know where it is because she's hiding from him. Or her, looks like a big hyena. Oh, that's lovely. James Richard, I know, I'm sorry. It was just so relaxing, so beautiful, so peaceful here that, as you say, Tristan would never fall asleep in a leopard sighting. We can check that with him. I'll ask him if it's ever happened to him. It was very brief. I mean, the leopard was asleep. Birds were asleep. The sun was in my face. It's just lovely. At least I didn't wake myself by snoring. Because then Theodore would have died of a heart attack. He'd have laughed so hard. Now the hyena is also going to sleep. It's obviously something about this area. Yes, you see? The whole area is just filled with sleep. Cat is yawning. Hyena's gone. I did fall asleep once in a leopard sighting with guests at Ngala. It was a very hot day and I had had almost no sleep because they were guests who like to have parties a lot. And I think it was about 10 o'clock in the morning we'd found this leopard, and on the back end of 4 hours sleep on a hot morning I nodded off. And it was that day that I banged my head on the seating frame behind me. And so the guests knew that I'd fallen asleep because I went pong and woke up rubbing my head. I haven't done that on drive though. Here. I must say she's totally relaxed now, and it interests me that she's got this kind of strange character in so much as she's not as relaxed as her mother, or not as relaxed as most leopards of this area, but if there's not too much movement around her, she's absolutely fine.
So we were lucky. Adam and Thomas just let me know that they found a leopard on the bank of the riverbed. You can see she's going up the bank now. Now, she was walking straight across the riverbed with her tail up high like that. You can see now it's gone down a little bit. And from what I can see, you can see she's walking up against a tree, lifted her tail, so she's marking. And now she's just disappeared. I think we're going to loop around to see if we might get another view of her. We're going to loop back towards the crossing and then head up on the bank. Now, she's literally just woken up as we got to her, and I think that this is the part of the evening where she's going to start her patrol. And in this particular area, look for a possible prey species, maybe the impalas that's up on the banks, or one of the small grey duikers in this area, which is a tiny little antelope. Everybody has certainly been spoiled with leopards today. I couldn't agree more. For myself, it's not usually the case that you get to see two different leopards within one day, and I think that we are extremely lucky at this stage. Now the only thing is, once the leopard walks across like that, even though she was extremely relaxed and she didn't mind our presence at all, this is usually the time that they give us the slip. And since we were in the riverbed, for us it's a little bit more tricky to get round, and I'm hoping that we'll get around quick enough to get to her or catch her while she's on the road. There's a good chance that she might move on the road for a little while, move from one big tree to the next one. So myself and Gerrit's just gonna try and catch up with her, and hopefully we'll get to find her again.
Not much going on here, as per when you left, except that I have remained fully awake and alert for the entire time that you've been away, all 5 minutes. Haven't I, Theodore? You need to vouch for me. People think I just come on drive and drop off and snooze my way through life. I tell you what, let's shifty slightly forward. Let's change things up a little bit. Especially as she's relaxed quite nicely for us. How's that, Thea? I'm just going to talk a lot more quietly now because you can see that she is listening. So we're just going to talk more quietly because she listened carefully as the vehicle moved up the road. And now she's relaxed again. Just watching her friend, Mr. Hyena. Thank you, Roberta. You're proud of me for staying awake. I am proud of myself, Roberta. The strains that I place upon my person for your benefit are manifold. And, well, I'm always grateful when you notice the sacrifices I make and the hardships I face. I've sat with this leopard all afternoon. It's been tough. Exhausting. Yeah, many of you saying that you're really enjoying the sounds of the bells in the background. I find it really comforting. And while I don't want to paint an overly romantic picture of life in Dixie Village, there are elements of it that certainly are bucolically romantic. It's a very picturesque village, lots of nice marula trees. It's not very thickly populated, not a lot of people live there. There's, I think, a relatively decent water supply. I'm not sure how good the electricity supply is, but it's the kind of place that when you walk through at this time of the day, there are people walking around the streets, wandering over to the spaza shop, which is a kind of, how would you describe a spaza shop in England? In English, sorry, not in England. Just a kind of tuck shop type place. And people wandering, chatting to each other in the streets. And it's a very kind of comfortable environment to be in.
And we just managed to catch up with her again. She actually surprised us a little bit. She very sneakily moved up on the bank and then across the road. Now I can see the tail is still up at this stage, and she's walking from one of these thick areas, or little thicket, these stands of trees. She's moving from the one to the next along a big game trail that moves through here. And I'm sure that she's looking for any unsuspecting herd in this area. We're going to try and keep up with her. She is moving quite slowly because I think she's scanning the area for any antelopes. Jackie, that is an extremely good question. How far away can leopards hear? Now, I am not entirely sure, but they are capable of hearing minute sounds within the tall grass, things as small as mice. I've watched leopards sit in one spot and listen out and try and catch some mice, and they often are successful. Now, in terms of a distance, I am not too sure. It is really, really far, that's all I know. Loud noises like another leopard's rasp or calling, she'll be able to hear over a large distance, maybe a couple of kilometers. Now, I do know that there's also a chance she might be keeping her young one somewhere within this area, and we are actually hoping that we might get a glimpse of her. In that case, she'll call very, very softly, something that we might not even hear, and then the young one will hear that.
Well, I thought I said too soon. Today I'll only be doing birds and biting, nothing else. But I've surprised myself a pleasant surprise, if I could call it, by seeing a mammal, and we got a spotted hyena. And I'm sure Lauren has spoiled all of you with the Djuma clan hyenas, but this is one of ourselves in the Mara, and I do not know what clan she comes from. Where did you go now? She said to duck, but at least we had her for a couple of seconds. Let's see if she's going to come out, and most likely, let me just back up a little bit, if you allow me, Bungay. And if you back out a little bit like that, she's just crossing the road. Very sneaky guy. Well, she's not willing to be photographed. Well, we have seen what we could, don't worry, Bungay, well done. And that's one of our hyenas here in the Mara. Let me see if we turn this way, if we could. It's not bad to see a Mara hyena. If Bunga, you look there, not the best angle I'm giving you, but you can see her running there. But yes, Mara hyena, we have been seeing lots of them in Djuma, and I'm sure Lauren has been doing a wonderful job. There she goes, running. And even a thing, this I would say could be part of the Ololo clan. Now, having checked in the Mara yesterday and having massive rains here, what we're trying to do, me and Isaac, is we split out, going to different directions. And tomorrow, one of us might be visiting the den that would think that the Northern clan could be. Nobody have seen them, not Isaac, not myself. Yesterday, I didn't go out, I went only out this morning, so lots of lions, lots of wildebeest. So we'll be planning to do that from tomorrow and see how they are doing, and especially I guess with the demise of Waffles, the matriarch of that clan. Well, we'll keep moving on and find out what else we might see on the way.
Oh, David, how I miss you. And I miss the North Clan so much, but I'm sure David will keep us up to date with everything. Now, this little chameleon was sleeping when we first arrived. It's so sweet. I don't like shining lights on chameleons. I only like to view them during the day. And if you look at the back of the head, that little flap neck, you see the skin is really dry. That's it starting to molt. So slowly but surely all that skin's going to come off and it's going to shed it, just like a snake sheds its skin. Oh, it's sleeping. Oh. It melts my heart. And if you look at the way it's holding on to this stalk or this twig, they actually have 5 toes. And they have a prominent claw on each toe, which allows them to grip. But they arrange their toes in such a way that 3 oppose the other 2. So it's like 3 and 2 on one hand, if you like, and that's how they're able to grasp so well. And of the flat-necked chameleons, the males are said to have a spur, which is like a small projection on the back of the hind leg, but it's really difficult to sex, and it's also difficult to spot. I wouldn't always rely on that little spur to sex your chameleon. We see you, yes. Look at those eyes. Built on top of turrets, with the ability to scan 180 degrees. So that's 360 in total, 180 from each. And there's only a really, really small minor blind spot when something comes very close to the chameleon's face. And that brain inside that head is dealing with 2 very different images on either side and processing them. Now, science is not entirely sure how it works, but they think the brain switches from each eye, a few seconds each. So let's have a look at what's happening on the left eye for a few seconds, and then switch to the right eye for a few seconds. Then left, then right. And somehow, that reptilian brain is able to compute what is going on. Incredible vision, far better than humans, and this makes them excellent hunters. Tim, you're asking how often do chameleons reproduce. I'm not actually sure how often. I think it's annually. But I will check that, because normally around sort of early summer or even late spring, actually, the males start to display, and you start to notice that they're changing colour and they'll fight one another and they're looking for a female. Then in the late summer, the females dig a little hole in the ground and they'll lay a clutch of eggs. Now they're very, very small eggs compared to a crocodile's or a large sea turtle, and it's anywhere between 30 to 60 eggs that they'll lay. Now, the clutch will be covered in lots of sort of mud and they'll be buried underground. They can incubate for almost a year. That's a really long time, almost a year. And they're said to hatch the following summer. So I'm sure it's annually that the female can lay a clutch of eggs, but I will check that for you. And they position the eggs very, very carefully underground. The eggs will hatch based on environmental cues, hatching time. I'm sorry, are we keeping you awake, little one? I think we might be. So I'm going to say bye to this little guy and let him catch some sleep.
And we've managed to catch up with her again. Just look how prominent that white tail is. It's lower down, but it's still up. She's walking through a clearing, which means that she will be visible. But she knows that it's getting darker, so if she does see something, she can quickly put the tail down and then move into stalk mode. Now the interesting thing is, she's been moving all along a game trail, and this game trail heads straight towards where the nearest water is, which is also where the young male leopard has been the last 3 days with a carcass, which we suspect he's stolen from her. It looks like she's sniffing something there. I wonder what that could be. That is a female at the moment. There's a lot of other. You can see she's a little bit careful sniffing the bush there. I wonder if it might be the scent of that young male. And once she heads and once we can't see her anymore, she's going to dip down into the riverbed. Susan, thank goodness for the infrared. I agree with you. Otherwise it would be very, very tricky. This is the time of the evening when for us the light's getting dimmer and dimmer, since we need the sunlight, and the colors that we see because of the sunlight during daytime, at nighttime for us it's very tricky. But for this leopard, this is where the games begin. And now she is actually able to see pretty well. As the conditions are dimming, her eyesight is basically improving. Now, I think we are going to loop around. We'll head down into the riverbed, and if we're really lucky, we might see her head straight towards where that young male was. So myself and Gerrit's gonna head straight down towards that watering hole and see if we can find her down there again.
We'll let our catchers to see we're going to see her, and so we left. And we're on our way back towards Djuma, past One-Eyed Pan, which is a little waterhole, very productive little waterhole, on the edge of Simbambili, which is the reserve that we're on now. And in case you're wondering, all these names, Djuma, Simbambili, Chitwa, Torchwood, Bifosuk, they're all small reserves that form part of the Sabi Sand, which is a very famous reserve on the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. The Greater Kruger National Park, sorry. think we're still heading the right way. I hope we are. Looks right. And really amazing how, it's not amazing, it happens every single year. It's very pleasant how the light is changing. We're getting much later dusk, which of course is entirely normal. It happens every year, doesn't it? Everybody's saying it's been a lovely afternoon. It's been a bumper day, really. I mean, we've had Tundi and Cub twice. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely magnificent day.
Really has been an amazing drive, and that's just how nature works. Sometimes it'll be quiet for days and then all of a sudden it delivers. I've got to see so many leopards recently. Tiani and Cub, Cara, Tandi, Kalalamba. Oh, it's just been absolutely fantastic. A little bit quiet on the male front, I have to say. I think the male leopard dynamics here really need to change soon. Tingana's, he's definitely gone from Djuma. Milwati's in, but I feel the dynamics are still to change. So I'm doing one last check around quarantine. I got to say goodbye to my little cubby and even the chameleon. So as I mentioned, Trishala will be back tomorrow, so I'm sure you're all excited to see her, and I will be back in a few weeks. And hopefully the activity in Djuma here keeps going. This is quite normal for winter because the vegetation is not as dense, it's not as thick, water is normally quite scarce. You see a lot of activity. Things become tense between the species here, intra and inter. But there's a lot more water than last year, that's for sure. So I'm sure tensions are not as high, but normally you see, oh, is this our wildebeest? Kelly, you're missing Hukumuri. I know. We're probably going to go into IR and take one last look at our wildebeest herd. I am also missing Hukumuri, to be completely honest with you. And I think he will come back. I really think he will come back to Djuma, but he's been pushed out for now. I think he really learned his lesson from Milwati, who's a much bigger leopard. But I think he'll come back. He'll start pushing again. Hukumuri's, well, he's a gangster and he's in his prime. He was spending a lot of time on Djuma. And I really hope that when Kalalamba is ready to mate, that Hukumuri is one of her choices. Although it's not really a case of choosing. It's a case of being as promiscuous as you can to confuse paternity of your youngsters. So that's it from me, everyone. Take care for the next few weeks, and I will be back with you soon.
So here we are, back with the same young male leopard we were this morning, and you can see something's just piqued his interest. He looks a little bit more concerned than he was this morning with the spur fowl. Look how full that belly is still, and he's moving back towards the carcass. And the best thing about this is, we've also look, he's marking. You see he's gone to lay down. So he's trying to establish his dominance over this area. Because not far behind us, in the riverbed, we have actually caught up with that female leopard as well. And at this stage, she's just come down into the riverbed. She's sitting dead still and she's watching him at this point. Now this should be really interesting because this guy is, technically speaking, a half-brother of hers. They had the same mother, but they did not have the same father. And even though he was strong enough to be a bully and steal her carcass, she's the one with the experience. And you can see he's really, really concerned. He's watching every move very, very carefully. I can see her still sitting dead still there. And I'm sure she's doing exactly the same. He's got an extremely full belly. You can see he just twisted his head a little bit to the side. Now often why they do that is to try and get a better image of what's happening. But with these cats, they often look for the movement. And the other one knows that when she sits dead still, even though they've got excellent vision in the dark or in low light conditions, she might be difficult to see. So at the moment she's just sitting dead still, she's not moving. And I think she's just going to scope out the situation and see if there might be any chance of her maybe stealing back that carcass while he has gone for a drink. You can see she's calling his bluff now. And he is most definitely not sure what's happening now. He wants her to move, and that's why he's making those quick movements, but he's realizing that she's not. In fact, she's actually just gone rolling around at the moment. I think that's what's drawing his attention, so he looks a little bit unsure on his face. So I think we're going to try see if we can give the viewers a view of her. Because I think she's playing a little bit dumb at the moment. She's trying to be submissive. That is a bit of a tricky situation. I'm just going to move a little bit so we can get a better view. And you can see she's blending in perfectly. You can hardly see her down there. And it looks like she's still got her head up. There you can see the eyes. Look at the tail. Now maybe she's rethinking her move. So I want to say good evening to all our viewers, and thank you for a fantastic day with lots of action happening. We will hopefully see what's happened tomorrow morning when you join us again on the live safaris.